Welcome to Go Live. It is Tuesday, and what happens every Tuesday at 1 o'clock is Go Live. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. Brent is on assignment yet again.
Yeah, of course.
He's a busy man.
Yep.
He's out there working his tail off for all of you. And what a lot of you don't see behind the scenes is how many plates this gentleman is constantly spinning. And so he will likely watch the recording of this. So in the chat, show him some love and some appreciation for all the efforts that he's putting out there. We really do sincerely appreciate all of that. Today, my guest host is the one and only Mr. Glenn Wuellner.
Thank you for having me back.
Good to see you.
Appreciate it.
Fun fact about Glenn is that he's originally from Seattle, but it's very specifically from Bainbridge Island. So if you are from Seattle or familiar with Bainbridge, give him a shout out in the chat. And so I think I've already congratulated you on your NFL team, right? They did fantastically.
It was great to see.
And the Mariners are...
They did very well last year.
And how did they start their season so far?
Yeah. All right.
Okay, I was genuinely asking. I don't know. You guys play in that other league called the American League rather than the National.
Well, it's still early, I feel.
No, it is. It sincerely is.
Yeah.
It really is. It's beautiful up there, and I can see why you love it so much. It is really beautiful up in Seattle. So what's exciting and happening in your world? Share with them what your kind of new role is, because I don't know if they may have read the press releases and they may have read everything, but tell them a little bit about you and what's happening in your world.
Yeah, if you hadn't heard, I took on a new role in January with the company, the title of which is Vice President of Business Initiatives. And Brent had asked for assistance with describing what it is that I do, knowing, of course, he had this role before
Yes, he
me.
did, yes.
But I think of my job as bringing demand to our company. Certainly, we want more agents to work for us, but also I want our agents to be more successful by creating demand for our agents. So it's a little mix of bringing technology along with a little bit of marketing as well. And then I also get the pleasure of working with our recruiter. So
yeah,
all things demand generation.
I like that. I like the go-to guy. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I like that definition. I like that, creating demand.
Yeah.
I really like that. I
Thank
think
you.
That's a great way to look at it.
It's been a good run so far, so I'm really enjoying it, and I hope that the company starts to see some new initiatives over the course of this year. I know that they're coming. And we've had some success recruiting some new managers and new agents. So I hope to make an impact for the rest of the year on
That's
this
fantastic.
Demand generation.
And I won't spill the beans entirely because we have a moment for all of that, but we have some really, really big initiatives that you're working on together with Home Services of America and the brand that are coming our way very, very soon.
Yeah.
So exciting times to be Glenn Wuellner actually right now.
Yeah,
so
it is. It's fun.
Totally fun. All right, ASA, so agent service announcement for the moment, and we'll go to that in just a second, Christina, but thank you very much. So I want to just remind everybody right now that as a brokerage, we do not participate in property management. That is not a service that we offer as a brokerage. And I think what happens sometimes when agents inadvertently or mistakenly cross into property management is when they either sell a property to a client or they have a client that has investment property, and in the spirit of service, we begin offering to do things for them, right? And we often do this without compensation. We do it in the spirit of service, great customer service, right? We've talked about unreasonable hospitality in the past here, and I can completely understand why you would want to do that. Like, you have a client who lives on the other side of the country and their condo that they rent out 6 months out of the year here, somebody needs to go and open the door to let a plumber come in. And while that seems innocent on the face of it, there's a whole lot of liability that comes along with that. Aside from, you're accommodating this plumber, whoever it might be, maybe you're even making the recommendations for the plumber, but you're also opening the door. So you're now crossing into that very strict line of property management. And a lot of times agents will say, well, they never paid me, we never signed a contract. And unfortunately, none of those things are required in order for you to be held liable for those actions, right? And so the best that you can do is simply direct them. You can certainly give them a plumber's referral. You can certainly tell them, hey, here's how I would approach this. But the second you start accommodating or facilitating those actions, this is where we run into some trouble, right? So the best thing that you can do is to have a referral source. Make sure that you have a referral source somewhere in your local marketplace where you can refer property management business to that particular person. And you can create an agreement with that particular person where, if that client ever decides to sell that property, that you have an exclusive right back, that is forever your client. And I think that's very, very reasonable for you to be able to do. So we got a lot more coming for you on that subject in the future, one that I think will help you. But for now, those are going to be the best practices.
Oh, that's a very good tease.
Well,
I was like, are we making an announcement?
No, not today. But rest assured that Brent and Glenn and myself are always looking for new business initiatives that will help our agents every step of the way. And not only reduce risk, but hopefully provide unreasonable hospitality.
Yeah. Step up service, reduce risk.
100%.
Yep.
All right, enough of the boring stuff. So let's move on, Christina. Let's move on to, all right, so part of Home Services of America, which is comprised of, 42 different brands across the country.
I would have guessed more, but yes.
It's approximately somewhere in the 40s different brands across the country. And it's not just Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, but in fact it includes Abbey Holiday in Texas. It includes Edina Realty up in the Minnesota area, Lawrence and Houlihan. It includes a lot of wonderful, wonderful brands around the country that all operate under the holding company of Home Services of America. Well, they put out a Connect series, and they do this every quarter, which is, I think, very exciting. And they invite a number of different speakers each time. And these are often big names that come and speak. And this is now open to all agents across the entire Home Services network. And so California Properties, being a part of that network, gets invited each and every time. And so the next one coming up is on May 21st with Rachel, how do you say it, Delalto? And she's a leadership and communications keynote speaker. So these are all trained speakers, leaders in their industries. You'll see on July 23rd, they have Lawrence Yoon coming.
That'll be a big one.
That will be definitely a big one because have been some big shifts in the economy, and so you won't want to miss that one on July 23rd. So if you still have, if you're watching from a laptop or from a computer screen, pull out your phone right now and scan that QR code that you see up there in the top right-hand corner. If you are watching from your phone, the URL is homeservices.com/Connect Series, right? So homeservices.com/Connect Series, and you'll be able to register for any and all of these great sessions coming forward. So I'll see you there.
Yeah, take advantage of the fact that Home Services of America is a major player in the real estate industry, and we have some really strong connections with people.
Yep.
and they like to interview these people and provide value back to our agents.
Yep.
So this is a great opportunity.
Yep, these are like mini little conferences, 1 hour conferences, if you will, and these are some pretty big names that come and speak, and so I'd encourage you to do that. All right, moving on. Next Tuesday, coming up for Go Live, we have the keys to home ownership. So if you work with first-time home buyers here in Southern California, which is a big part of the housing impact here in Southern California. I know that we work with a lot of luxury products. We have probably the best of the best luxury agents that exist in Southern California. Shout out to all of you. But the other side to that is our first-time home buyers, that are our beloved first-time home buyers, where we're super proud to help them get into the market. Many of the luxury buyers started off as first-time home buyers, right? And so we're going to be discussing a lot of products and programs that exist for them together with our Impact Council. And they do a tremendous job as a group to advocating for first-time home buyers. They go out there and they do workshops in the community, and they really do good for our local community. So we're excited about that. We're going to talk all about that next Tuesday, April 14th.
And shout out for a creative name.
I know,
Keys
right?
to home ownership. Ba-dum-bum.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. So yeah, we're excited to show you. We don't have a slide for this, but I'm going to also plug the Friday morning show that I do with Jimmy Burgess, that we call the Quick Win Collective. That's another national call. And if you were on last week's Quick Win Collective, we had Jason Pantana there, which I thought was just a fantastic session. And those are also agents from all over the country. That one is wide open for the entire industry. And I love doing it with Jimmy. This week coming up, we're going to have Jimmy Mackin from Listing Leads come on. And he always brings a great episode with high value in what to say, how to say it, when to say it, scripts. And he's got a wonderful product where he's constantly putting out what to say, how to say it, what you should send out there from a sales standpoint, which I think is very, very helpful and valuable.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, he's great. He's fantastic. So that's at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 Eastern time every Friday. So look for those emails coming out, and we're excited to have you. Cool.
Yeah, right on.
Right on. All right, so our topic today, we're talking, I'm getting tongue-tied.
Design, staging.
Yes.
And we're going to hear some tips and some good information from certainly a friend of California Properties. Sam, you may recall I first met Kiel and his company Vesta at our luxury event. Very popular session on giving the value propositions to a well-staged home. Tons of tips and latest trends on design, because he has a very substantial design background, and he handles all price points. So we thought we would bring him on for a sort of a refresher course, and certainly introduce him to agents that weren't able to make it to Lux, and talk about design and staging and cool stuff and what looks good and what doesn't.
And I think that, Kiel, if I'm not mistaken, this is your second time on Go Live, I think we've had you on before, right?
Yes, I was on, I think it was last September, I think it was on.
Fantastic.
Well,
Yes,
welcome
it's
back.
good to be back.
Well, we're working on an SNL type of coat. So once you hit 5 times, you're going to get one of those Saturday Night Live 5-time guests. It won't be green.
So we're stepping up from the mugs, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, cheers to you. Thanks for coming back. We really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Kiel, if you could just give us a little bit of background on yourself and on Vesta, and like how we became professional friends and acquaintances, California Properties and Vesta, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Kiel Wuellner. I am the Senior Creative Director of Vesta Home, which is a Los Angeles-based interior design business, staging business, and we're a furniture studio. We are nationwide, and on a weekly basis, we're staging between 90 to 100 homes nationwide, about 30 of which take place in LA County. I've been in the industry for 27 years. I started when I was 15 years old. It was my very first job. And I worked for a realtor throughout high school and was staging his properties, used my mom's credit card, and it turned into a career because staging was not a thing yet in the 90s. And since then, I lived in New York for many years, and Vesta, when it was still a baby little startup, moved me to Los Angeles. And Vesta is very unique in the industry just because we're vertically integrated. So we are manufacturing every single piece of furniture, lighting, accessories, art, rugs that go into our properties. Every single thing is for sale. And we are actually a tech business. So out of all of the 100+ designers nationwide, unlike other staging companies that you're going to warehouses and like tagging in person, ours are all reserved online. So I've done 19 houses this year so far, and I've done it all on an app on my phone. We're also very unique just because we are manufacturing our own furniture, you are given a custom experience, and we do have options for every single price point.
And the option of actually purchasing the furniture.
Yes. So after we're done staging, the agent is given a full price list of every single thing in the house. And I would say right now we're averaging, I think 36% of the time our houses are sold as a turnkey experience, which is a great number. I'm very proud of.
Wow.
Except I don't get that furniture back, and I want to use it sometime.
That's amazing. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so, from a practical standpoint, how are you seeing the agents? Because obviously, the way you stage it is getting a premium in terms of pricing, certainly a premium in attraction and influence. But are they separately invoicing the transaction, and then you guys establish a price point for all of that furniture, and they do like a personal sale, outside of escrow, or what? How do you normally see that happening, or is that outside of your wheelhouse?
It's completely separate transaction. As far as you're saying like a buyout experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So obviously the staging is paid for upfront prior to us actually staging the property, and then when a house goes into escrow, our furniture sales team reaches out to the agent and lets them know, like, hey, I'm here if you want to talk pricing. And they're usually open to negotiating because a lot of times furniture has been in a house before, maybe once, twice, 3 times. And the cool thing is it's, let's say you like love everything. I just dealt with this in a house I did. They want to swap out a few pieces. We have a full department that is able to facilitate that. So you can swap out a coffee table, swap out a sectional. We can do something custom or turn it into a full-blown interior design project and engage our interior design services, remove all of the staging and do a complete custom build out with that team throughout Vesta.
Wow, that's amazing. That would be a service that I would need.
Before we started, shared what your dream house looked like, and I don't know if we'd be able to help you based on those.
So what you all don't know is that before the call came, I told him my ideal living room would be to have a mural in the main living room of Dodger Stadium, and both Glenn and Kiel looked at me like, no, I'm sorry.
Your house will never sell.
Well, Kiel, I know you're gonna come with a bunch of tips and ideas and stuff like that. But before, why don't you talk a little bit about what you think is important about proper staging and design in the sales process?
I think just understanding, when it comes down to working with an agent, just understanding what your goal is. I think because we have so many options, just identifying what the budget is. It's a really awkward discussion to have with the seller as far as coughing up. Like, staging is not inexpensive. Vesta is not a cheap staging company by any means. We are a luxury staging company. So sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow. I think the biggest advice I can give is with those conversations, engage Vesta's sales team and explain the statistics behind it of how much faster a house sells with proper staging, which is typically 15% faster and 10% higher when your house is staged, not only by Vesta, but any luxury staging company. It really does have that ability to transform it completely. Our goal is obviously high dollar, quick sale. But just asking the right questions. Like I personally I'm not in the sales team, but I was asked, I did a speaking engagement for Realm a couple weeks ago, and I've been asked twice now already to start attending listing appointments with some of these agents. Cause like, oh, I know I can get this. Like this one agent reached out, a $25 million listing. She's like, I really want it. I need you with me. And I was like, you know what? That's a whole area of business we haven't considered because I don't usually attend those meetings.
That's interesting. That's very interesting because it's always a difficult position to be in as a listing agent to tell a seller that, which both Glenn and Kiel would probably say about my house, that it's not, that it's ugly, like it doesn't show well, right? And for somebody in my example, like, you know, I would think because of just my personal preferences that this is fantastic. I even said to you off camera, well, maybe a Dodger fan would want to buy it, right?
It's a nice beach market.
So that's interesting that they would want to bring you in because, you know, truthfully, one of the things that I like to teach is sharing with sellers that, like so many things, there are trends, right? And the things that, you know, I'll remember back when the green speckled granite countertops were all the rage, right? Somewhere in the 90s through the early 2000s, right? I mean, when I got into the business, Glenn, if you had white tiled countertops, like they were the white subway type tiles.
Yeah, 4x4s or whatever.
Yeah, that was all the rage for a moment in time, right? And so during that time, that was what's on trend. And so it's interesting that they would invite you because you have a way probably of articulating to people to not offend them.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important aspect when I am entering on conversations. I usually preface it with, please do not take this feedback as personal. A lot of the times I'm speaking for the agent. Sometimes they think the agent doesn't want to say, but I can say as a third party vendor that if we want to have a quick sale, it starts at the curb and we got to work our way to the back of the property. Every single little detail contributes to that sale. And if I do it instead of the agent, it does go over a lot better. And yes, there is pushback, but when we show, whether it be our portfolio of work or just explain why, like in your Dodger themed living room is a detriment to the possible sale of the home. It's really, it honestly, it usually goes really well. We do have a lot of people like, oh, you can use this in the staging. And I was like, no, I can't. Like, I really, really can't. And there's so much psychology behind staging that you have to consider. It's so oftentimes developers and agents bring in the interior designer of the property to work with the stager. Please don't do this. Just don't bring in the interior designer. It's a completely different process. And the way you lay out a room as an interior designer is completely different than a home stager would, because we're considering many different aspects versus actually living in the space. So it needs to look at that level, but layout is everything, as well as the color schemes throughout too.
I love that, putting you into the mix of the conversation so that it takes the burden of having to explain taste and stuff like that off of the agent. The agent can remain neutral. But for agents that are watching today that might not be in the market that you specialize in, right, the super high end, I think it's important to talk to them because trends that are happening in luxury seem to filter down to the convenient price points as well. So I think there's going to be some great tips coming that everybody will be interested in hearing about. So having said that, let's dive into some of the tips and tricks that you have.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, we can go to the next slide, which is...
By the way, I love that cabinet color.
Oh, that's a house I did in Palm Springs.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we are actually moving into a condo that we have in downtown San Diego, and truth be told, my mind is around this whole design because we have to remodel it again. We've had tenants in there for 9 or 10 years. And that's precisely the color that I settled on with my wife that we really, really enjoyed. So
Very cool.
see, it's not Dodger.
Trending.
So I was instructed to come up with, Brent asked for top 10 staging mistakes. And this is not just mistakes that a staging company makes, but it's kind of mistakes that can happen an agent can, even if they aren't engaging a stager. First and foremost, it's under and over staging. What we run into a lot at every price point is it's a really stressful experience. For the agent, they feel the pressure of listing the house. By the developer who spent a few years building it and just has so much money sunk into it. And oftentimes they go the wrong way and they overstage. And when I do a final walkthrough with an agent or whoever, they're like, but what are you going to put here? What are you going to put here? And they just want to fill it up and fill it up and fill it up. Luxury, even if it's not a high dollar price point property, it's always something step up from typically where someone is living currently. So you need to have that level of restraint. And I get in arguments every day. I don't want to, but it happens where they just want to fill it and I just have to push back. Or I'll stop by typically at the photo shoot and see if they've tweaked things since I staged. I'm like, no, you're mucking it up and detracting from what the purpose is here. So, and then the flip side of that is when you engage oftentimes a value-friendly staging company, a less expensive option. And I train stagers every day of my career. They are trained, they don't understand layering and understanding all of those little details that go into it and how important it really is. And sometimes this feels too sparse. It does not feel warm. It feels like it needs that extra layer, whether it's missing area rugs, it's missing the proper scale art, whatever it may be, can totally turn someone off immediately as they enter the home, or it does not resonate with them after the fact.
Is there a difference between a home you would design to live in versus a home you would design to stage, or are those lines becoming more and more blurry?
To sell,
right? I think they're becoming blurred, but at the same time, when I'm laying out, I just brought this up before, where like, let's say I'm laying out a great room in a home. I need to consider how the agent is walking a possible buyer through that house, and where the eye is going. And the eye needs to go to the selling points throughout the property, whether it be a view, whether it be a stone fireplace, whatever is the selling point or a focal point, I need to kind of arrange the furniture to push the eye into that direction. Whereas in interior design, it's more about comfort. Yes, it needs to look great, but it's about overall use. Right. So it can get a little tricky, but especially when the seller's living on the furniture because they are so accustomed to the way they like to do things. But it really does have a big influence. And I try and explain that every single time.
Great
especially
distinction.
When it comes down to televisions. Like people are hyper obsessed with TV locations.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the TV location in the second guest room will not impact the sale of the house. Like, get away from that. And it matters in the family room. That's where it matters, but don't worry about these secondary spaces because that's not something that's going to come up, most of the time at least.
What I hear is that if I were to hire a designer, for example, I give you the example, we're moving back into a condo that we're going to redesign. If I hire a designer, I'm really looking for them to capture how my wife and I want to live. She would never put up with the Dodger stuff. But we want that to be as stylish as possible. But we also want it to reflect our personality, reflect how we want to live, our conveniences that we want in life. And we're the ones that are going to live with it. We're not selling that property. And I think that is the real distinct skill set, is what I will call it, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect, brings me into my next thing, which is the staging style needs to match the home or the area.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, whether it be a condo in San Diego or a beach house in Laguna or an estate in Montecito, the approach with staging and the selections of pieces are completely different.
Yes.
And the level of detail is also different. And the types of fabrics, the type of colorations, the type of art really all depend on the location. So the term location is not just about buying real estate. It really comes down to staging too, where I'm working with a younger stage or whoever, I know they know that the rules, kind of like what you do at the beach versus in the city, and what the storytelling we need to tell and how important that is. It really it's so interesting where, like, I'm gonna bring up, I'm fixing a house, Vesta stage, for instance. It's in the Bird Streets, and beautiful house. I won't mention the price point because it's utterly ridiculous. And the staging's not good because the wrong stager was brought in, and the agent micromanaged the direction a little bit, and it doesn't match the location. It doesn't match who the possible buyer is for the house. And it just feels off, and the listing has gone stagnant. And now it has a new agent bring on, and they see the errors that have been made, and they know they are going to course correct. So it's really interesting just the power at which style has when telling that story throughout staging.
Are there things that you saw 2 years ago that are outdated today?
Yes, the color gray as a whole. I feel bad for every person who has a house that put in their gray hardwood floors in 2018 or painted every room gray. While you can't necessarily change all of that before listing your house, updating aspects or telling the stager, like, hey, I need you to save this.
Okay.
And I worked with a Berkshire Hathaway agent, Gabriella, I can't say her last name, Cesena. And we did a house in Santa Rosa Valley, and that was the opposite, where instead of fighting the style of the house and the more, I'll say, dated attributes, I had to embrace them so it didn't feel as dated. But sometimes there are these houses where it's like, to your point, like 2-year-old selections that people aren't doing anymore. And it could just be colorations. It could be a stone choice. Just the overall types of materials, whether it could be the color of the plaster, whatever. And we have to kind of play around with color theory and how we balance the eye throughout the space. So whether it be the eye skips directly over it, or we add things that complement it so it doesn't look like a negative.
Yeah, you know, I think we all embrace, in terms of fashion, that those things are cyclical and that they're ever changing, right? I think less people don't realize that in terms of interior design, and that the same applies, right? You know, I loved my green speckled granite countertop when we first had it. It was fantastic, right? And now if people were to walk in, they'd be like, this is ugly. Like,
But Kiel brings up a really good point, like perhaps just bringing an expert in so that your eye is going to different things versus focusing on the gray stuff.
Yes, as well as oftentimes you're so accustomed to your surroundings, you're so comfortable with it, a seller oftentimes doesn't even see that something may have become bad. Or something may have become dated because they love it. They chose it 10 years ago and they still love it. And I'm talking directly to my dad because that's something that I dealt with him when we listed his house. So just having an understanding that your carbon copy is not buying your house, we need to have it appeal to as many people as possible, is so important.
Yeah. Nice. Talk about the over personalization, because I think agents are trained to try to help people. You know, I know, in speaking from my own personal family, you know, having the 4-foot by 6-foot crucifix hanging in the living room needs to come down while we're trying to sell the property, right? But so how do you approach that with people? You know, because
they're attached.
May my mother rest in peace. She would fight you tooth and nail, right? So how do you approach that?
I think it's just having those hard conversations, and it does take a very delicate approach oftentimes, but just explaining the items that may be overly specific, and whether it be a bold piece of art. Obviously, we all know family photos need to come down. I think that's a given. Or the last name of the seller on the front doormat, things like that. Remove all of that. Those are all things everyone knows. When it comes down to overly bold selection, it could be furniture, but it also could be just paint selections. It could be things that are so hyper specific So like I have a client who they're a maximalist and their entire living space is Venetian plaster in a plum color.
Wow.
And it is so unbelievably intense. And it was so expensive to do.
Wow.
But it really could turn off someone
Yeah.
as they enter that house, because after you leave a property, let's say you see 3 houses in a day, you're going to always remember, oh, that purple house, like, or whatever it may be. There's so many different things, but just explaining that may not appeal and we want to get top dollar. We really need to make these a small investment. And I deal with this every day where it is so awkward and I witness an agent talking to the seller, just like we need to, whether it be paint the exterior, edit the gardens, or paint the interior, or refinish the floors. They all make such a giant impact because no one wants to, well, not no one. Most people don't want to walk into a project. They want to walk into as close to a turnkey experience as they can.
Yep.
Yeah. That the item that you have there, bad photography, I feel like you can do probably an entire hour session just on that alone.
I drill every agent as I'm staging for them, like, who's doing the photography? And every house is different. If it's an architectural house, if it is a vibe, like we went super vibey with the staging, or I think a lot of these houses right now, I think a great example is O'Connor Estates. They are also a Berkshire Hathaway agent. They had a listing in Marina del Rey that I staged. And it was a unique beach house. It had some dated attributes. They had all these very hard conversations with the seller to refinish the hardwood floors and paint and add window treatments, all to make these major impact. But the best thing they did is they didn't hire a standard photographer. They hired an editorial style photographer. So it's much more of like what you'd see in a magazine. It is about the vignettes. It's not, no bird eye lenses are used. Like, please, that always ruins it and throws people's perception of scale off. Oftentimes in the age of AI or the age of just heavily editing your photos, sometimes just scale, people walk in, they're like, this looks nothing like I thought it was going to. But if you're selling a vibe and the staging and the photography are in sync, it oftentimes is great bait to get people in the door. I have a great network of photographers I work with in LA, and I know who's right for each house, because it's every house is different. Every agent and their brand is also different. Because I think, as I mentioned in my Lux presentation, agents today have the ability to be major influencers throughout social media, and the consistency of their listings, always engaging the same staging company, always engaging the same style or the same photographer, so unbelievably important. So when you see a listing, I typically can spot like, oh, I know who's listing that house. I know who's doing this.
They're developing a brand for themselves.
Because of the style
It's actually
of photography.
incredible.
I love that.
Yeah, but bad photography. This nice power couple that I work with and I stage their houses, they're like, we got this photographer for $200, and I was like, oh no.
Right. Meanwhile, they're spending tens of thousands on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to skip over the rushing the installation piece of it, because I think our natural sales persona is like, great, I got the listing, let's get it on the market, let's get it sold as quickly as possible. So talk to us about how to time staging in the process and how much time is really appropriate.
And believe it or not, I actually think that pressure of going fast comes more from the sellers.
Yeah.
I actually think, because when they've decided to sell their home, their expectation or their desire is for them to lock in somebody as quickly as possible, make this go as smooth as possible. And so,
they're spending the money already.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so to tell them, I'm going to take the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month to prepare your home, which seems very logical from our vantage point. But to them, that's another month of carrying costs. And especially if you're working with the homes like what Kiel's working with, I mean, in some cases, we're talking $100,000.
Yeah, big check.
Right? So it could be a big one. So Kiel, tell us about that.
So most staging companies do have a lead time. And a lot of agents get really irritated when they get their listing agreement and then they meet with the staging company, like, cool, can you stage Friday? And yes, we've done it. If we have availability and you really want to rush that process, great. The less time we have, it affects the end product. Vesta being vertically integrated as well as just digital, like the more time we have, the more time I have to get the right perfect pieces to tell the story we're wanting to achieve. But I think just being upfront and immediately as you engage a salesperson for a staging company, be like, first question, before you even meet them on site, just to save you time, ask them what their current lead time is. Like right now, like we're having an insane year already. I was not expecting this, but we are. And right now, I think we're at 2.5 weeks out. So even if you sign a contract today, our first availability is that far out. And it's a lot of times they don't think that through, but it's great. If the sooner you sign the contract, the more the better, especially with new construction. If you're working with a new development project, a new house that's being built for the past 3 years, as soon as you have your listing agreement, which a lot of times is way before the house is ready, hire the staging company. And if you hire us that much earlier, like I was hired for a house in Brentwood 2 years ahead of time because they wanted a complete custom experience. So obviously that's not right for every house, but if you give us a month, you give us 3 weeks, the product you're going to get is going to be much better. I'm not saying you're going to get a bad product, but nothing is good rushed.
10% faster, 10% higher, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
I like it a lot. I try to convey to agents that there's in today's real estate world, and I don't care what price point you're at, there's actually two, I call them two first impressions. The first one, obviously, and this goes back to your photography and the staging and how we publish that and market that online, right? So people will always see it in some digital format first. And then when they get to the property, in my opinion, that experience that they had online needs to be better in person than what they had. So that's that second first impression, if you will, right? From, Photoshop does a lot of things today, right? It'll turn on a fireplace when there's no gas in the fireplace, right?
Right.
And so that experience, I think, is really, really, really important. If when they walk in, they say, this is even better than what we saw online, because they're engaging all of their senses, right? Not just 100%. The visual one, but how it smells when you walk in, right? If it smells like fresh paint, I mean, it tells me that it's new, but I think it diminishes the experience as well, right? So
100%.
there's all of that going in there. And so that goes to rushing the installation. Now, talk to us about that hiding flaws with staging. What?
Yeah.
Are you positioning that as like, we should do that, or we should not do that?
I did that intentionally because
I know you did.
It's very interesting where a lot of times a house is just ugly. Let's be honest. Like, I'll be honest. My favorite houses to stage are ugly houses. But it's always a hard conversation where, like, let's say a house is completely wall-to-wall carpet everywhere. I'm asked to put rugs and everything on top of carpet and really try. They think it's going to it's going to hide it. It's drawing more attention to it. Whereas, like, if the proper steps aren't taken, if there is no budget to update the house, you just kind of have to own it. And you have to then, the purpose of staging is more for spatial aspects and a visual, like a nice fresh look, but don't try so hard. Like oftentimes they'll always like want to hide like something with like a tree. They're like, oh, put a tree in this hallway in front of this because I don't want to look at that. Or there's an electrical panel on the most awkward area ever. And they're like, put art over that. And I'm like, I can't put art way up there. This is going to look ridiculous. Let's just own it. And it's going to draw less attention to it in the end. And I think it's less surprises at close of escrow. When someone gets their new home and they walk in, they're like, wow, I bought a really ugly house. That staging really fooled me. So I think it's really two ways to look at it. But I think every house has its own way of going about it. Like my house, for instance, was staged so unbelievably bad, and I loved it because it gave me the ability to negotiate. But I think it wasn't staged too. So it was just like they didn't spend that money, and they probably could have gotten a lot more money for it. But they didn't hide any flaws. Everything was exposed. So every house is different, though. But don't try too hard, because that ends up being more glaring.
What falls into your list of details?
Like I said before, the experience of buying a home starts at the curb. Like typically it starts with a drive-by to see if the house checks the boxes from the curb. And if I pull in the driveway and it's an asphalt driveway and it hasn't been sealed in a few years, like I usually tell the agent, like, hey, I'd seal the driveway before you list this place. Or the concrete walkways haven't been power washed, or there's tape residue on the front door or whatever. All of those little itty bitty things all really matter just as much as the staging. It's truly like exterior staging in a way. And if you can't afford to paint an exterior or make necessary updates, ensuring it's obnoxiously clean, that has been taken care of, always pay off.
Okay.
Proper gardening is also major. Just getting things trimmed up and well cared for really shows that you love your house and you're proud of it.
Every buyer who walks into a house that is not buttoned up in that way, they start taking a $500 challenge and adding 100%. A zero to the end of it, right? It becomes
they're
$5,000.
seeing as anything they can ask for a discount on.
Absolutely.
So, and that also goes through the interior too. So like just ensuring the place has been deep cleaned, tiles been steam cleaned, just so nothing looks like a project unless it's a true fixer-upper.
Yep.
And Kiel, you've talked about a lot of suggestions that take money. Let's take advantage of the fact that you're an expert. What suggestions could you give to a seller that's on a budget? What are one or two things that they could focus on that don't take a lot of money?
Can we go to the next slide and I'll talk about that?
Oh my gosh, that's a great transition.
Look at that.
Yeah. It's like we practiced it.
Yeah, exactly.
So Brent asked me to come up with top 5 easily sourced items that like make an impact with staging, especially when, let's say there isn't money for proper staging from a staging company. Just as staging is a visual experience, all of the senses tie into it. So home scent of how the house smells, I would say is right up there, just as important as staging. If a house has a negative smell, whether it be mildew, whether it be musty, whatever, immediate turn off, or smoke especially. So getting the house cleaned as well as bringing some candles. I always leave candles for my agents to use. Please use them. I put diffusers everywhere to ensure everything smells nice. I know a lot of agents even have their own candle lines now where they have a branded scent throughout their properties. Greenery is huge, whether it be real or faux. Faux is just as impactful in an image from a real estate listing as real. That just adds warmth. It shows life. It shows interest. And again, if you're trying to diffuse a situation, whether it be you have really ugly green speckled kitchen countertops, you can diffuse that overall dated aspect with a cool greenery, a cool branches, whatever, that shows that it's like a hip modern aspect. Another major thing is I walk in someone's house, I need to teach everybody how to make a bed, but a properly made bed with crisp bedding that's not all wrinkled makes a humongous impact. Nice, clean linens that are nicely made. It's nice and zhuzhed and all the pillows are nice and fluffed. Just again, shows that you really care about your property and you care about your listing. I mentioned the house I staged recently for O'Connor Estates. They added window treatments and they did that not to hide a view. It was a waterfront home. They did it to really emphasize the height and showing the positive attributes of the architecture that may have been lost with the current layout. It just made the house feel 20 feet taller than it actually is and added that wow factor.
Wow.
Another quick, easy thing is lighting. And that's and I said poor lighting on the previous stage.
Sure.
Not only the style of lighting, like sometimes no lighting is better. I'd rather just have recessed lights than an ugly chandelier that's in my face. But a lot of it is the color temperature of the bulbs throughout your property have to be consistent. when you walk in a house, you turn on the overheads, which I hate an overhead light. Like, don't get me wrong. They still need to be consistent. So a 2700 Kelvin to a 3000 Kelvin light bulb is a warm white.
2600 to 3000.
2700 to 3000 is the preferable color temperature, the Kelvin
Yep.
of the light bulb that gives a nice, softer, warmer glow. 5000 Kelvin, which is also known as daylight,
Right.
is cool toned, and it looks like you live in a Home Depot. Like, it's not flattering. It does not make anything look expensive. So adding that warmth, especially in a house that has cool tones, is super, super important.
And I can see it being very important that it's consistent throughout the whole house, right? Like if you had a warm and inviting living room, but then went to the dining room and it was bright white, that could be a little bit shocking for somebody that's touring.
Yeah, just because it needs, even in the staging, I always ensure the color story is consistent so nothing is jarring. The same goes for the lighting, where it needs to have a nice, calming, ideally, aspect as you walk through, so it feels cohesive. This is supposed to be a step up in life when you upgrade your house. So you want it to have that perfect aspect of something you really want to achieve. Like, oh, I wish I was this put together. Like it, because not everyone has a perfect house inside that truly the way they live with their children or what have they.
I like it.
Yeah, very cool.
The home fragrance, the diffuser, I think so many listings could benefit from just that one aspect, right?
Totally.
I mean, how many times have you walking in and the people rushed out on a Sunday morning after having breakfast, and you walk in, and don't get me wrong, I love bacon. I mean, I love bacon. But to walk into a house after they've just cooked a ton of bacon for probably what was a fantastic Sunday morning breakfast just is not flattering for the house.
Yeah, fish and meat are scents that people don't want to experience as they enter a house they're considering. They want to, so stay away from that. That's such a good point. One thing I didn't list I want to mention is also sound. Again, going back to the senses.
Great.
Whether it be you're trying to muffle the noise of a freeway behind the house, just having light ambient music on brings everyone down a notch and calms them, especially because this is a super high stress purchase. Obviously, it's the most stressful purchase people make in their lives. So those little tips and tricks, I think, really add up to a nicer experience and hopefully a quicker sale.
That's amazing.
You covered a lot of do's. Let's talk about a few don'ts.
No matter what.
Yeah, for sure.
What are Kiel's don't you ever, I'll never speak to you again? Leave the Dodgers out of this, okay? You hear me?
I mean, you like had a nice cue up for me to talk about that. The big don'ts, I would say, just not, this goes to agents too. Your personal preferences too, you kind of need to step out of your own self sometimes and open an issue of Elle Decor or go on Pinterest and type in 2026 design trends. And even though you hyper obsess or you love something, it may not resonate with who the buyer is of that house. It could be from an age standpoint or geographically. Like a lot of my taste, I don't put into my staging because I know it's too hyper specific. I think that's a really big one. I think also just expect, like, staging is a marketing tool and it's a very important marketing tool. It's how I pay for my life, please. Yeah. But just know that the other work needs to take place too. So like I just staged a house, new construction, staging turned out beautiful. I'm very, very proud for this house to be listed. And I just stopped by and the developer doesn't understand how especially at this very high price point, it needs to be perfect. And the house is all messed up and it got dirty, things got moved around and all those things, just being on top of it is so important to ensure that everything is obnoxiously dialed in always. Even after the house goes into escrow, it could fall out of escrow. And that's when, like, I think a lot of times houses, like, they need a refresh with the outdoor furniture or the landscaping gets overgrown. You just kind of always need to stay on top of it. Beyond that, I think it's really coming down to just the impact of different influences of the property. Howard, stop. Sorry, my dog's barking. And how it really impacts the buyer. So staying away from bold primary colors, especially as we're designing our product line. I always tell like our head buyer, I'm like, no bright, obnoxious colors. Everything needs to be somewhat subdued because it could be an immediate turnoff. So steer away from that. Like I mentioned, that purple living room, they can't afford to redo it. You want to add aspects to soften it at least.
That's awesome.
That works?
One thought, if you don't mind, in the few minutes that we have left, maybe 30 seconds worth, if I'm dealing with somebody who, whatever the circumstance of the sale is, they just can't afford staging at any level, right? But an agent, in representing them well, wanted to come in and do something. I've always heard that accessories can do wonders for a house to a certain extent, right? So if you were in really challenging circumstances and the budget was limited, you know, to maybe $300 to $500, and all you could do was run down to Home Goods and get some things and clean some stuff up, what are some things that Kiel would do to maximize that circumstance?
I think for me, it's all about scale. So if it's a house, you know, a large budget, like a large impactful vase with some branches you get out of the backyard. I oftentimes go foraging in my house's yards for branches and things like that, that just add that wow on the entry table or on the kitchen table, whatever it may be. If you're going to go buy accessories, I think restraint is best. So things that are warm, I would spend money on the candles versus a tchotchke. A tchotchke can be visual fuss, but a lot of times if you're going to have it be an item that implies use. I like useful items that show what an item, whether it be let's say it's a little like a bar built into like a breakfast room. You don't want to fill that with home decor. You want to fill that up with plates and bowls and things that a family would actually use to tell the story of how the house is best lived in. And I think a lot of times, especially less expensive staging companies, they think accessories are the whole saving grace of their job, where they should have spent more money on the scale of their furniture. So scale is everything. And another free thing is just rearranging furniture.
Or removing some pieces, right?
Yeah, work with your seller, get rid of some pieces, rearrange it, just so when you walk into the house, you're not walking into the back of a sofa, or you're not walking into a big clunky dresser in an entry. Anything that could be viewed as a negative or turn someone off's got to go.
Wow.
Draw inspiration from somewhere. I loved your suggestion of like open up an Elle Decor and draw some inspiration. I know that I follow you on social media. I constantly am drawing inspiration from your designs and from Vesta as well. So
I find myself right now that I'm paying attention to this world, I find myself following paint companies, like, you know, all the major paint brand companies. And here's the other thing that's hitting me in the face, like just these suppliers, these companies that sell products, right? Furnishings, paint companies, what have you. They constantly are developing products, and then they spend money to influence me, influence the world, influence Home Depot to sell their products, right? This is where that evolution of style comes from. So why not follow the source that is out there influencing the masses to buy their products? Because that's really what it's about, right, Kiel? I mean, we're all getting influenced to a certain extent, right? I'm digging into Ogilvy now, right? The famous marketer, that we're all influenced from something. And so let's follow those people.
100% agree.
That's amazing. I feel smarter now.
I do too.
As a result, and I
No
feel like
Dodger themed living rooms.
no more. I promise. I promise. I promise. I will save that money and just go get season tickets. How does that sound, right?
Perfect.
Well, here's my last thought, and it's a challenge for you, Kiel. I think that we should design a Vespa stage here in the studio.
Oh, okay. Have us outfit a stage for you guys?
Oh, wow.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh,
right?
I would totally do that.
Like have Vespa be the official
Vesta.
Vesta. Sorry.
No, I love a Vespa too, though.
Yeah.
Vesta, have our Vesta living room or I don't know if
Amazing
it's a living
idea.
room, but
Let's do it. I'm so down. I'll make it happen.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, it'd be very cool. I love that idea.
All right.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for including me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to
Show
see
him
you.
some love, please, in the chat. We really appreciate it. Thank you for taking your time to come out here. Click on the hearts, click on the thumbs up, do that, share
A lot
him
of good
some love.
comments coming in.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, Kiel.
Be well, my friend.
Popular guest.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate you including me.
Be well.
Okay.
All right, well, that's another episode of Go Live. Thank you, my friend.
Of course.
Every time
anytime.
you're here, things all go perfectly.
Oh, I doubt that.
It's because of your business initiative
Oh my
approach
gosh,
to everything
yes.
that you do.
You heard it
So-
here first.
And thank you all for joining us. And hopefully you had as much fun today as we did here in the studio. We'll see you next week on Tuesday and all the other options that we provide for you. Big thanks to Christina Miller, who's always behind the camera here, making all of the controls work well. Shout out to all of our staff across all of Southern California, specifically my team here. They're so wonderful.
They
always
are.
do fantastic. So thank you, everybody. Be well.